Hello, everyone. My name is Tina, and this is Therapeutic Writing. I'm excited to share my journey with you all, and then as well as some methods that I've used in my own process for healing from PMDD or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Um, a little bit about me. I was diagnosed with PMDD in 2019. I had suffered from symptoms for about 20 years before I even knew what PMDD was. So in kind of in the middle of all of that, once I came to terms with, what was going on with me, why my mood symptoms were so extreme for all of those years, um, and when I received that diagnosis, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, I was angry. Um, I was very mad that, you know, my symptoms um, that I didn't know what was going on with me for all of those years. I kind of, looked back at my past and thought about the quality of life, and the other things that um, felt very, I felt very unseen, um, angry, rebellious, rage. Those were the emotions. Um, so uh, after my diagnosis, um, I decided that all of those feelings, all of those emotions, um, they were gonna, there was another place for them to go. So I needed to find an outlet for that. So at that point, I opened my keyboard, or I opened my laptop and I started writing. Um, for me, as an introvert, especially, I didn't have a big friends group. I didn't have a big support system. Um, there wasn't really an outlet that I was able to go to. So with that, the writing process really served for that purpose. Um, and I was really able to just kind of let those things flow. I was able to express my emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly, the weird, whatever it was able to flow through me rather than being trapped in me. Um, and especially for any other quiet introverts out there, this may be a process that can help to articulate how PMDD makes us feel, the things from our past that may contribute to these cyclical symptoms. Um, and yeah, I think it's a matter of expression, a matter of creativity, finding that outlet. Before my diagnosis, I never really thought about writing. It wasn't something that I did as a hobby or anything like that, but PMDD really forced me in a way into that direction. And ironically, it's been a helpful process. It's been a very helpful process. And I'm glad that I was able to find that outlet, but also that I was able to find the creativity behind it. So it was almost a catalyst into a place that I wouldn't have ended up in if it had not been for PMDD. So let's jump into it. I have a couple of methods that I've used in the past. And therapeutic writing, if anyone is really looking for more information on this, there's a ton of methods out there online that you can Google. And there's just a laundry list of ways that we can go about doing this. So a lot of people have heard of journaling, especially with, or affirmations, um, manifesting, right? So we're talking more on the positive side of things, like journaling, perhaps a positive experience that we want to happen in the future or something like that, more like affirmations. Where I really started, I really wanted to meet myself where I was at, and I started with all of the negative things, which I know seems counterintuitive. But in that moment, in those moments, with the anger and with the rage and with the discomfort, it was a matter of walking towards that, observing what was happening, and then releasing it through words. So in my method is a little bit more focused on walking towards the things that may make us feel uncomfortable, but doing it in a manner in which we are able to walk towards it, observe it, and release it. So there's a PDF associated with this workshop, and the link will be with the recording as well. And so let's just go straight into that. Also, I'm more of a writer than I am a speaker. So as you can hear, I do a lot of ums, or I do a lot of, pauses, things like that. So definitely my stronger skill is with writing. So let's share this PDF. Not that and not that. Wrong screen. There we go. Okay, perfect. So in the beginning of the PDF, there is a letter that I wrote to everyone that would be attending the workshop. So I love writing letters in this manner. Again, more of a writer than I am a speaker. So in the letter, I kind of talk about my background, why I started writing, why I um, you know, went through this process and kind of the symptoms that I was experiencing. Some of the things that I was going through with PMDD was very deep, deep, deep depression, suicidal ideation, severe anxiety, all of those, kind of it was just the cloud of um stuff that I just felt very trapped in, like there was no escape. So, kind of in this letter, I walk through those symptoms, and I give those symptoms some, what's the word? Um, I give them their place, right? So I talk about depression as in like it's something like my best friend's brother that slept on the couch and never cooked or cleaned. Like you have to go, right? The guy on the couch gotta go. That was like my depression. Anxiety was like the in-laws that gave you parenting advice and never left, right? Gotta go. Um, things of things like that. So bringing in those symptoms and then giving them a kind of a reframe, giving them a a different idea, right? So letters are a great way to do writing. There's also a method where we can write a love letter to ourselves. I love that idea as well. So definitely, as we move through the methods, there will be things that will stick out to you. There will be things that resonate with you specifically, and those are really the ones that you want to grab a hold of and try it out in your own practice. So, letters definitely an option. Another method that I really like to use, and this one's really interesting because it's also so the method that I have here is called stream of consciousness. It's also known as automatic writing. So with automatic writing, um, it is a method where we are shutting down the part of our brain that filters, assigns meaning, that does anything to our thoughts. So we are simply taking a break from that part of our brain that does the processing. So for example, on the screen here, you will see what an example of stream of consciousness writing might look like. And I'll kind of highlight it here on the screen. It's very ugly. There's no punctuation. Um, Words may be spelled very wrong. There's no rules whatsoever at all. The only rule is to not have rules. So, meaning taking kind of a deep, a deep breath, clear the space, and then just write whatever thought is coming into your mind. You do nothing to it. You don't touch it. You don't judge it. You just let it flow. This is a great exercise that can be done for, you can do it for as long as you want, but I think 5 to 10 minutes is a good rule of thumb for this. The objective is to catch the stream of consciousness, unfiltered, um, without anything without anything obstructing the path. So this is a great method that could be used if you are um, even just journaling. I think this is a great thing that could be done daily from a day like daily journaling of spending 10 minutes of just letting those thoughts come out. This is very good for mindfulness, being present. It shuts down that super logical, analytical, overthinking part of the brain that is concerned about structure, spelling, how you might sound to other people. I mean, this isn't something that is presented to other people. This is just a mechanism to really just let the energy flow through us. This is something that's great if you ever have writer's block for writers out there that are working on books or articles or anything like that. This is perfect to get through writer's block or to start a writing session because it's really opening up that pathway and shutting down those overly active parts of our brains. So I love this. But again, the output of this isn't something that we wouldn't really be producing anything except for ideas. So one thing that I've noticed is by doing this, I'm able to have ideas flow through, ideas that may have been drowned out by other thoughts or other or kind of that other part of the brain, that overactive part, if I can get to this place mentally, and sometimes there's some really creative, intuitive ideas that will flow through that may have otherwise kind of been trapped or filtered out or just ignored. So, this is also a great tool that we can use for brainstorming. Maybe we have a particular problem that we are working on, or a particular issue that we would like to address. And so doing this with an intention is also super powerful. For example, you know, I, my intention could be I want to work on my anger, right? Could probably come up with something better than that, but that's good enough. I'm feeling angry and I want to work through that. And then go into this place, stream of consciousness, automatic writing, or whichever one you would like to call it. Go to that place with that intention and let the information flow through you. So I think especially for me, in my experience with PMDD, that overly analytical inner critic, as Heidi um, so eloquently talked about in her session, that's that nagging part of our brain um, that isn't that part is not really great for coming up with ideas. That part isn't great for letting the juices flow, right? So that creative process is really coming from that other place. So it's about quieting that down and letting it come through. So I love this. Another method that's been super helpful for me with kind of working through my PMDD symptoms has been the objective observer. So, what this means is basically observing an experience from an outside perspective. So, for example, I could say, Tina seems angry today. She's been working nonstop and deserves a break. I hope she takes one soon before we all explode from chronic exposure to her aura. Let me see if there is someone else that can help so she can take a nap. Maybe I could remind her that some of these deadlines can be pushed. So essentially, this is me writing about my experience, but from an outside perspective. So I would view this perspective as like a friend or a partner or a family member or even a coworker that cares about my well-being, right? So we have to do that switch into the mindset of if there was, and granted, everyone has different amounts of support systems or, different, um, um, we have different relationships. So some people have more support systems than others. For me, like I said, I'm very like introvert. Uh, so this was essentially a tool that I was doing in my own head. Um, Looking at it like if I had a friend that was experiencing this, how would I observe and portray her experience, right? So if we take this same example and we thought about it like self-talk, um, it may be something more like, I don't feel good, but I have all this stuff on my plate. Why do I have so much stuff and no help? My partner really sucks. My life sucks. So I feel like we've all been there at one point or another, kind of in our journeys. Um, and so the difference between, or this distinction between the outside observer perspective and our own self-talk is quite distinct when you really write it out, right? Um, and so this is the where the writing process really helps, is that you're forced to articulate this in words, and then you can look at it and read it back to yourself and you're like, wow, right? What is going on? um, because if we were to take that same self-talk and we put it from a perspective of we are saying our own self-talk to another person, it would be really horrific. So, for example, something like, Tina, you don't feel good, but you have all this stuff on your plate. Why do you have all this stuff on your plate and no help? Your partner really sucks and your life really sucks. Like, imagining if we were to say that to another person, I like, it's mean. It's very critical. And I know, a lot of us dealing with these types of issues, one of the kind of common traits that keeps coming up is empathy. We tend to have empathy, right? So when we look at it from that perspective, likely we would think twice about saying these types of things to another person. But when we say it to ourselves in our own heads, we don't think twice about it, right? So this process of objective observer really helped me to start to reframe and retrain my own self-talk. Anytime those critical thoughts would start coming up, I would, remove myself from the situation for just a minute and observe and think, would I ever say this to another person? Would I say this to my friend? Would I say this to my partner? Would I say this to my family or my children? And the answer is no. So it's unfair for me to say those things to myself. And that's really a key kind of component of the objective observer method. And then there's some activities that I've listed here as well that I thought that have been helpful for me in my personal journey. So what are three things from your past that are a bit too hurtful to write about? For me, when I first started out, one of the things was when I had symptoms, my daughter was a preteen, and I would just yell, I mean, about everything. Um, Things that didn't matter. I was just angry, and I was angry to the people around me. So those symptoms, just yelling at my own child, was really is something that weighed on me, that really stuck with me for a long time. And so that's an example of something maybe that would be hard to write about from our own perspective of saying, I used to yell at my daughter and she did not deserve that. Um, that's a difficult thing for me to confront, right? From a firsthand perspective, because those wounds are still very raw, right? So in this example, when we take that and we reframe it or we write about it from the experience of an objective observer, we could reframe that in something like, all the times Tina yelled at her daughter is part of what prompted her to get the help she deserved. Tina's a great mother, but she wasn't perfect, especially while suffering from a debilitating condition. So we talk about it objectively, as in, if this were my friend, this is something that I would say to a friend. This is something that I would say to someone that I care about, right? In a supportive manner, not in a mean or critical or judgmental manner. Um, and so, yeah, these are just, I feel like this alone is very powerful in how we do that inner work, right? And then method three is a just something I've always been drawn to. I've always kind of um, talked about. Sorry, there was a message that popped up. Just checking that really quick. Okay, sorry. So creating new words. This is I don't know. I think it's just a fun thing to think through and to get the creative juices flowing. Um, when I started writing, and I was never really I wasn't big on grammar or English in general. I mean, I went to school, I did it in school, and I um was always like a pretty good writer, but I never thought about words more than like what a normal person would, right? So when I started writing, I really began to geek out on different words and what they meant and how to use them and how to structure them. And so it just became a bigger pursuit to me. And so it's interesting because the kind of the definition of a word, like how do we get words into the English language? It is from people making them up and then other people using them. So we have a collection of that's an estimated that we have about 1 million words in the English language. And essentially, they are just noises that we make with our mouth that we have assigned like a, meaning to. Um, but the, so with that said, one of the things that I was bumping up against was, you know, I don't know if I have the right words available to me to be able to express how I feel. Right? So I think that sometimes it's good practice to create new words. It's good practice to, you know, if there is not a word that you can find that expresses a feeling, make one up. I think that's healthy. Um, and I think, especially in the case of PMDD, some of these experiences are not easy to explain. They're not easy to describe, and there literally might not be the right word available to be able to articulate and express that emotion. So if you find yourself in that um, kind of space, I think it's a great thing to do to make up a new word. Um, and so anyway, it's also just a super fun activity, like to just think about what can you come up with. In my case, and I could probably come up with some more, but this was the one that stuck with me. And I did dysphoric rhinitis, right? Whatever. So it's just two words put together, and it just means a severe allergy to negative energy. Um, I literally feel like sometimes that I am allergic to um, bad vibes. And this could be used in a sentence like, I'm sorry that I can't make it to the party. I'm suffering from dysphoric rhinitis. And just be done, right? So, um, I hope that some of these methods are helpful to you all in your journey. They have certainly been helpful to me. And like I said, really, there's no limit on writing, or there's really no limit on expression, creativity. That's really what we're talking about here. Writing is just a method, right? One method of many. For some, it's painting. For some, it's, dancing or other ways to express to kind of get that energy, that stagnant stuff that's stuck in us, to give it somewhere to go, right? So if you like words, then I hope that, and even if you've never written anything, I hope these methods kind of give you a place where you can start out. Um, and then and I'll leave you with this quote because it's one of my favorite quotes from my favorite philosopher. The syntactical nature of reality, the real secret of magic, is that the world is made of words. And if you know the words that the world is made of, you can make of it whatever you wish. So I love that. And for more on my work, I do have a Substack, and I've written and self-published two different books, both related to my experiences with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And you can find the links in this document, but then as well, everything is on my website at womaninthebasement.com. And I hope this has been helpful, and I am sending great vibes to everyone on their journey. Stop recording.